And so I'm building a brand new life, a brand new business, creating everything that I want for myself and showing other women how to create it for themselves, so that I knew that I was the only thing between myself and my son and things never working out. And so there wasn't an option of saying, I can't do this. There wasn't an option of saying, oh, I'm too overwhelmed, I can't. The option was, what support do I need? What help do I need? What belief system do I need? What do I need to lean into? And most importantly, who do I have to become to accomplish all these things that I've set out to do? So from that dreamer to Paris at 21, to 30 years of 50 Shades of Crazy, to back to Paris to celebrate my birth and my rebirth. And now here I am sharing my story, sharing my gifts, sharing my journey, so that other women can take time and money off their experience. They can have the benefit of what I've learned without having to bear my scars.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. Right off the bat, just empowerment right there. Welcome to Squirreltown Talk. I'm your host, Mr. Squirreltown himself. And tonight we have the lovely dream doula and transformation coach, Roz Clark. How you doing, Roz?
I am well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm appreciative to have you on the show tonight. I've read your bio. It's very empowering for the viewers that are tuning in. Roz has done a lot. She has a lot of experience. She's all about women empowerment. So I'm glad to have her and truly appreciative to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I am delighted to be here.
So Roz, for those who don't know Roz, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about her. Serving high net worth women who feel trapped in the lives that they created. Roz Clark vibrates on a frequency of love and empowerment that your listener will resonate immediately. It says she shares a message of finding your way out of darkness and into light. Her personal journey of fleeing a toxic and dysfunctional marriage after 30 years, being homeless, caring for her adult son with special needs with no support from his father during the height of the COVID pandemic, and ultimately rebuilding her life with a business and brand dedicated to supporting those who are overbooked, overburdened, and often feel overlooked and is an inspiration. Sorry about that. Okay, then it says Roz worked in arts and nonprofit sector and has been recognized with prestigious Unsung Heroes Awards from PSB. What's PSB, Roz?
Public radio.
Okay, all right.
Like it should be PBS. So maybe that's a typo. So it should be PBS.
Okay, PBS. And then it says Roz has also been featured as a force for good on the Tony Robbins podcast. Wow. Dream doula, transformation coach, keynote speaker, professional performer, and author Roz Clark has an innate desire to help people, especially women, unleash their fullest potential by reconnecting with the power and passion of their dream. And then it says that she is a force of nature when it comes to helping others to heal, finding their voice, and pursuing their dreams. Her ability to empower women or people to own and share their stories is truly remarkable. By tuning into your conversations with Roz, your listeners will be inspired to live life without regrets, following their own individual purpose and passion to have a greater impact in the world. So yeah, Roz, you've done a lot. You're empowering me just reading that bio right there. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. Yeah, man. I've lived a lot of life. I really, really have. It's been a lot of things. It's been good. It's been 50 Shades of Crazy. It's been the journey back. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to the story that we choose to tell, and I choose to tell a story that I'm not a victim or a martyr. I am a woman on a mission. And I didn't have a choice but to do anything but that because I got a special needs son who was dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to show up.
Wow. Yeah. And that's what us as parents and human beings have to do. It ain't no excuses, and I respect that a lot. So I'm gonna play another clip of one of the videos you said, "Living Your Best Life." So I'm gonna play this clip, and then we can discuss a little bit more about how your journey started. So check it out.
With the flow. I'm rolling through this, I'm living through this, I'm loving through this, and I'm doubling down on what I believe. I wouldn't be teaching this if I didn't believe it. I've seen lives changed by what I'm teaching. I've seen my own life changed by what I was teaching. Those of you who know my story, I went through a really challenging time, had to leave my marriage of more than 30 years, was homeless for 3 months, and then in a year's time, I was in Paris celebrating my birthday. So I call it celebrating my birth and my rebirth. My life changed. Was it Cardi? My life changed drastically. So my life did. It changed drastically, but I was neither a victim nor a martyr. I had moved on from a toxic and dysfunctional situation, and I'm moving into my best life. I'm living my best life, owning my choices.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so now that the viewers have got a little small glimpse of what Roz Clark is all about, tell us how this journey started.
Once upon a time. So, you know, I grew up in a working class blue collar neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So, came from moderate means,
Hmm.
and yet I always was like this big crazy dreamer. And so at first, like my first experience with like show business, my mother used to take us to the ice capades, right? And so there were like
Hmm.
lights
Well, the
and
ice
costumes,
capade.
they were skating, yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that, I want to be in the light. Knew I couldn't skate like that, but I wanted to be in the light. And so I always had a dream of being a performer. And
Mm.
so I took dance classes. My mother teases me because she's like, I paid for all those dance classes and then you became a singer. And so, 13 years old, I was identified as a classical soprano. And at the same time,
Mm.
I was playing power forward on my high school basketball team. So I'm this
Yeah,
like kind of renaissance dichotomy because even though I work with women, I'm a guy's gal. So I grew up on the basketball courts. I was
yeah.
involved in the arts, and I just knew I knew I was meant for something big. Like I knew it all within the core of my being, and
Hmm.
so that has been like my north star. No matter what happens in my life, what matter what goes left, I always know. Les Brown always says, "You've got greatness in you," and I
Hmm.
knew that, and I trusted that. So, like I said in that clip, I went on to turn 21 in Paris. I was touring with this prestigious classical choir,
Mm.
and was in my mind, has doing the work. My voice was evolving, and so I was on track to have an international career as a classical soprano.
Yeah.
And then I came back to the States. I got married, and my second child, my son, he had his first seizure at 8 months old.
Mm. Oh,
And when I
wow.
tell you, you've never seen something that small shake that hard. And so, and from there, it was just pediatric intensive care wards and rides in ambulances and EIEIO. And I made
Mm.
the decision to release my career dreams and, care for my son, be an advocate for my son. I have his older sister, my daughter, who's highly gifted,
Hmm.
BFA in ballet. And so I made the commitment to my family. And
Yeah.
I supported my husband in his career and helped him grow and whatever. And like that part didn't work out. So after 30 years, I was like, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it got crazy, like I said, 50 shades of crazy. And I had to leave quickly to, for safety and well-being.
Yeah.
Ended up
Hmm.
homeless for 3 months. And but again, like the come up was, and the comeback was, I don't have a choice. My son is dependent on me. And so
Yeah.
I've got to do this, and his father chose not to do it. And so I had to, I had to step up, I had to man up, I had to woman up, I had to do all the things.
Yeah.
And I built a business, a brand, and a bank account, and
Mm-hmm.
went to Paris. I returned to Paris. So I turned 21 there. I went
Mm-hmm.
back for my 60th birthday. So,
Wow.
yeah, so to celebrate my birth and my rebirth.
Yeah. So okay, so let's go back a little bit to, when things shifted, the 50 shades of crazy,
Yeah.
and you're homeless, and you're in a situation with two kids, right?
So, I mean, my kids were grown because, like I said, I've been
Okay.
married for 30 years. So
Okay. But
my
you
kids,
still have one that depended on you, correct?
yeah, totally depended on me. And,
Mm-hmm.
for in homeless is homeless because I had my shit in my car. So,
Yeah.
it was that part. Um,
Yeah.
and yet I also, like, I put all my furniture and stuff like that I was taking. I put all of that in storage,
Mm-hmm.
and just couldn't find a spot because, and this is the thing, and I think for a lot of women, you're so focused on showing up for your family and doing what you're supposed to do. And I perceive myself to be a wise, savvy, independent woman in some ways, and yet
Yeah.
I hadn't had any credit or anything in my name for 30
Mm.
years. And the big issue in my marriage was financial instability,
Yeah.
so it was like we were moving all the time because, he was convinced he needed to live in houses that we couldn't afford. And so that was part of the journey. So when I had to leave and leave quickly, fortunately, I did. I had friends, like one of my friends was on tour and he was like, girl, I'm gonna send you, sis, I'm gonna send you the keys. You just go to my spot, stay as long as you can need to.
Yeah.
And I left my son until I got back on my feet. And then I took him back because my intention was to just have an adult uncoupling, like share responsibilities and whatever.
Right. Like co-parent.
Yeah, co-parenting. And
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit, and his father went ghost.
Mm. So what do you do? Like in a situation when
My son, who was
okay, you kind of cut out. What'd you say,
serious,
Roz?
saying, I once my big goals was, because I had lived in financial peril for so many years. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
I set a budget, and I promised God and 12 responsible people that I was not going to go to that
Mm-hmm.
budget. So that was part of the thing. Is in
Right.
California, and it was, well, if you just spend a little, I was like, nope. So I finally found a spot that I could afford. It was in a gated
Mm-hmm.
community. It was an added bonus because I had another level of safety. And,
Yeah.
and so I started rebuilding.
Yeah. Wow. And what made you want to do what you're doing now at that point? Like what was the spark that said, okay, in order for me to really do what I want to do, I want to do this.
Yeah, part of it is like I've always been that person who evolves. So I was an artist. I
Mm-hmm.
am a creative. And actually, when the marriage was coming to an end, I love Christmas. I am like a little kid when it comes to Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
The particular year, it was just, again, it was just crazy. We're living in a $1.2 million home, and I'm
Mm.
rolling quarters to buy dinner. Like,
Wow.
yeah, man, it was crazy. And
Yeah.
so for this particular Christmas, there was nothing, there was no money, there was not going to be anything. And so, but I've collected um, Christmas ornaments and stuff over the years. When I traveled,
Mm-hmm.
I still have some that I bought in Paris when I turned 21. So I had them. And so I
Right.
started, decorating the house. So I started listening to Les Brown. And so, just all that. And then,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I'm in my 50s now, like, right? Robbins comes on, and I'm like, how did I live 5 decades and not know who Tony Robbins was? And so
Right.
I started
Right.
listening. Yeah, man, I had never heard of him. Go figure.
Mm.
Um, And so I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to start making some videos just to be encouraging and whatever, because that's always been my nature. I was like the you can do it girl, even when I was growing up. And
Yeah.
so I started doing them. And I looked up maybe, I don't know, 4, 6 months later, and I had over 200,000 views and shares.
Well, and
And I was
shares
like,
too.
this,
Wow.
oh, this is a thing. Like I didn't know, right? So I got to
Yeah.
figure out what to do with this thing. And so the encouraging piece and the coaching piece was always my inherent nature. So what I had to do was the
Hmm.
work to figure out and begin to understand what the business aspect of this was. And so it was just
Mm.
a natural transition. And then I wrote a book. What was it? Oh, I can't even think of the name of my own book. 30 Days of
Is it the?
Meditation
Oh,
Affirmation.
okay.
So,
Okay.
and again, it was this encouraging book and whatever. And so I just was like, I can do this. And then the more that I started studying different people and learning what they were. And here's a
Hmm.
funny story. So the first podcast that I was ever on was on the
Hmm.
Tony Robbins podcast.
Wow. The
Yeah,
first one,
like
huh?
my first one ever. And he was doing
Wow.
this series called A Force for Good. And
Hmm.
his producers had seen some of my stuff and reached out to me. And so, like, that was my first podcast.
That's a blessing right there. I mean, Tony Robbins, like, come on.
100. Yeah, that's major.
Wow.
That's major. And of course, by that time, I knew how major it was. And I was just like,
Yeah.
this is the truth. And so, what I believe, and like he speaks it all the time, where
Hmm.
focus goes, energy flows. What you tell yourself, what you
Yeah.
believe about yourself, you can either choose, because I could have been like, oh, this is horrible, and this happened to me, and they did that, and da 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 da.
Hmm.
No, this is my time. This
Yeah.
is my time. I got my son depending on me, and I deserve better. So it was,
Exactly.
I spent 30 years taking care of everybody. And
Hmm.
so I gave myself permission to put me first. Because at first, and I'll admit this, at first I was like, God dang it, I bet on the wrong horse. And I was like, nope, that mindset's not going it's not going to serve you. So what I said
No.
was, I will never bet against myself again,
See?
ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I
This
mean, I would
is
say that we all think at one point in our life that that was a mistake.
it.
That
Hmm.
what I just did there was a mistake. But no, that's not necessarily what it is. That's not the case. Like you said, just don't bet on yourself, against yourself. I mean, don't
Right.
never bet against yourself. So with that, and the challenges that you had, like, once you started to bounce back, what continued to motivate you to move even further?
I love this. I love what I do. Like I said, I have always been a person. Like I have a girlfriend that I went to high school with. We have very, very different lives, and yet we are still
Hmm.
really, really close. And she used to always tell me, she said, girl, I always knew you were going to be somebody. And so, and my thing was like, but you're somebody too, and you can be somebody too, you
Right,
know?
right.
And so that's always been my nature. And she and I will laugh because there were times, we would meet up on the bus, and because I took public transportation. We weren't far enough out to be bused, but we weren't close enough to walk or anything. And so
Right.
there would be mornings, and she was like, don't come over here with that happy stuff. you know, Girl, I ain't for it this morning. So
Right, you ain't for it.
so that's just always been my inherent nature. And so coming from being a performer, it's very easy the transfer of skills of
Hmm.
being on the stage or being on a screen or being on a podcast or whatever that may be. I have the ability to reach beyond and connect with my audience. And I think one of the main reasons that I connect is because I care.
Yeah, passion.
Yeah.
I did a class one time for instructor development, and when I was speaking on a topic that I really didn't care about, they couldn't feel it. Like the audience couldn't feel it. But as soon as I started talking about something that I loved or I had passion for, even the instructor was like, "See, you can tell." So that's why when you said that, it hit me, because I'm like, that's exactly it. Because I was gonna ask, like, how easy, I mean, like, how is it that you went from singing to now speaking? Because a lot of people can't do that. That's a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
So,
part of it was because when I had to let go of my career, I knew I still needed to stay connected to the arts to feed my soul. And so I created a Black opera company modeled very much after Dance Theater of Harlem. And so my thing was, if I can't, and this is where the dream doula part comes in, because I've always been a dreamer. If I can't actualize my dream, what I can do is help other people experience theirs and achieve theirs. So I started that in the arts. And part of that is, fundraising. So I had, this is really odd, I had tons of corporate partners for an arts organization. I had banks and, yeah, and this is like a brand new founded arts organization. And so I was always comfortable, again, having that conversation, getting people to join me. And that, I think that is the gift. And that's like the focus of my work too.
Yeah.
It's all
cut out a little bit. It's gonna come up to speed in a minute. It's cutting out. I can't hear you, Roz. All right.
all around story, the way that people can see you do or what you've done, but the ability of what they can do.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
I hear the clicking. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
it's.
Were you able to hear me during time?
Network is yeah.
Okay, cool.
A little bit. I heard the last part, and then it was like frozen. So going to the dream doula part of it and transformation. How do you get people to buy into what you are telling them or educating and motivating them to do?
Yeah, and so that was part of it. And just to kind of circle back on it, when you share your story is not about you. Your story is about your audience, because you want them to be able to see themselves in your story. So what I help my clients do, they're usually, women who they have been in a C-suite, or they're tired of whatever is happening in their life. They want some more depth and meaning. And so we all have our story. We have, and there's some people call it the origin story. Some people call it the hero's journey, and what it also becomes is that transformational story that makes people raise their hand and say, I want to be a part of that. I want that for me. So if somebody hears my story, instead of me wailing and whining about how life is so unfair, and they're like, wait a minute, this sister bounced at 59, turned 60 in Paris, after coming through so much. I know I've got something that I want to do. I know I have something that I want to share. And the only thing that I have to make sure that people know is your story matters.
Absolutely.
I have a story, and my story is going to change somebody's life. My client has a story, and there is somebody who is looking for her. They're looking for her story and her voice, and she is going to transform lives too. And so once they understand the power of their own experience, that's when the magic happens.
Wow. Okay, so I'm seeing on your bio, it says your dreams are your roadmap to your destiny, and then it shows this piece called "Awaken." Tell us a little bit about "Awaken."
Yeah. So awaken is it's like you're awakening to your dreams. So the way that I work is I work with small groups because learning happens in community and
Hmm.
consistency happens in community. So I work with small groups of women. And so it's either in like a mastermind, which the awakening is. I also have a virtual retreat. And one of the
Mm.
things I'm super excited, yeah, and I'm super excited about is I'm going to start hosting luxury destination retreats for women as well. And so
Wow.
yeah, so it's a three-step framework. So in
Hmm.
the half day virtual retreat, we really dig in and dial in on, okay, what is your story? What is your message? What is it that's in you that's crying out to be lived? So when we talk about our dreams are the roadmap to our destiny, from the time
Hmm.
I was that little girl sitting in I lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was the civic arena. It was an igloo, and like the dome actually even opened. And so, they,
Okay.
so not only would the ice capades be there, hockey would be there, but like they would do big concerts there. And I will never
Right.
forget. It was like the Commodores were there, and
Mm.
they were singing Zoom. And they opened the dome up, and you were looking up at the sky. It was amazing.
Oh
So
man.
So those kinds of transformative moments. So like I said, I felt connected to that from the time first I was a little girl at the ice capades, and I was a
Hmm.
teenager and then a young woman, and it was always around being in transformative places and situations that there was this collective experience. So that
Yeah.
is in the core of my nature. So that is the dream that has been the roadmap that has taken me to where I am now. And so, just like
Mm.
you were saying earlier, the parts that happened that may not have felt as comfortable, they weren't mistakes. They were
Right.
part of the journey. They were the part of me becoming all of who I needed to become to support and encourage and be able to stand on my story. You know,
Yeah.
rather than getting stuck in my story, I stand on my story. And so I can
Hmm.
show people how they can do that. So it's the half day workshop to kind of dial it in. And then there's a 6 week awaken intensive where we really map out the strategy. So how are you finding your audience? How are you showing up for your audience? Who is it that you need and want to serve? Because there's a very
Mm.
specific person that we are each for. And
Yeah.
so, you know this, you're in the podcasting business. So when we talk about, okay, who is our ideal audience? Who is our dream client? Like my dream client, I've named her. I know what her
Hmm.
name is. I know what she likes to do. I know, that she enjoys champagne and Cabernet. She
Right.
enjoys
Right.
beautiful places. And yet she also, and I mean, and she's done the thing. She's rung the bell, grabbed the brass ring. She's got the red bottoms, and yet
Wow.
there's part of her that says, there's got to be more than this. There's
Yep.
got to be more than this. And
Hmm.
so that's the part that I want to come alongside her and say, yes, there is. And you need to share it because that part of you that's crying out to be lived, the world needs to hear that.
See, that's powerful. And that's very powerful. So I got a couple more questions. One would be, um, like, if you were to tell anybody right now that has been in a situation similar to yours, where heartache turned into success, what would you tell them?
I think the biggest thing, and it's actually an old quote. I think Shakespeare, "To thine own self be true." Like, know who you are.
Mm.
Trust who you are. Trust your voice. Trust your inner knowing. Don't play small to make other people feel big. And those of us who do have bright lights, our lights are like, people are like, "Oh my God, you're so much," and it's like, no, you're just not part of what I'm doing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And like,
Hmm.
I'm not saying you have to blow up your life And yet what I am saying is that part of us, that mystical, magical part of who we are, the essence of our being, the gift that we are to this world, like don't miss your gift.
Mm,
Think about those things that you used to dream about when you were a kid, and maybe
yep.
you were, like stop dreaming, get your head out of the sky or whatever, or life just started happening and you lost who you were. Just get still and quiet because that part of you is still there and that part of you is meant to be lived.
Wow. That just gave me chills because, a dream is everything. It's everything. And like you said, if you close your eyes, you still dream. You
Yeah.
open your eyes, you still dream.
Yeah.
So a dream is everything. Lastly, would be where can the viewers find you online if they want to attend one of your virtual sessions, if they want to attend the retreat that's coming up? Where can they find you online?
Thank you for asking. So I am my biggest place and where I share a lot of information is on LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. It's Roz Clark Dream Doula. So LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me.
Mhm.
All the other platforms, I'm at Roz, ROZ, Roz Divination, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So those, I'm on all the platforms. And yet, if you really want to get into my world, see what I'm sharing and learn because I share content all the time. Because again, while I can't work with everybody, like I can still help as many people as I can. And then there will be those special few that will raise their hand and say, yeah, man, I want more of this and I want to be a part of what she's doing. So LinkedIn is a real good place to connect with me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, Roz, I want to thank you in advance in regards to this interview. We truly appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you tonight. Um, I will be rebroadcasting this show on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch. So it'll be rebroadcasted. For the viewers that tuned in, thank you. Continue to support. Um, Roz, thanks for being a part of the Women in Entertainment podcast series. You just empowering women is what this series is really all about, anyway. And so you're a true example of women empowerment. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. And I just want to take this moment, if you'll allow me, just quickly to thank
Absolutely.
you for making this a priority. Like, there's not a lot of people who are willing to tell this story or create a space and a dialogue for this conversation. So I really want to
Yeah,
honor and acknowledge and thank you for how you're showing up in the world and allowing women to have a voice in a space that they can share. So thank you so much for that.
I appreciate it. Like I said, without you, it wouldn't be no me. Without women, there is no man. So, yeah, you contribute to us, and we contribute to the world. So, yeah, we appreciate it. I'm gonna continue to do this for the viewers. Continue to tune in because we're gonna do this at least until the end of the year. So, thanks again, Roz. I appreciate it. And like I said, continue to do what you do. We'll continue to link up. I'm really interested in everything that you got going in the future. So thanks again.
Thank you. Be well.
All right. Have a good one, y'all. And thanks again for everybody that tuned in and continue to tune in. Continue to check out Roz Clark on all digital and social media platforms. See you.